Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You just gotta listen. Now, I don't mean necessarily this podcast, because you can also watch it depending on where you are. Listen for the signs. Listen for what's out there. She has a golden theory about a lot of this stuff that could potentially be a game changer in your life. She is an intuitive, an empath. She's a coach of sorts, even, loosely call it a therapist. I call her that because she does provide a lot of insight. She's also an amazing storyteller, and she's back with us. Janis Reed is here. Hello.
Hi. Hi. Boy, have I got a story for you today.
Do tell
Thanks
me.
for the nice build-up. That was very sweet. My golden idea is an old idea. Take just a second and kind of imagine in your mind's eye that we are living in the time of when the population is very, very small on the planet. And our group is just made up of 5 or 6 people. And that's all the people we really know and trust. And we're going across this field of tall grass. Maybe it's hilly, maybe it's marshy, but we're watching where we're going, and we're watching the old people and the young people in our group so that we don't get lost and we all stay together. And as we come up over a crest, we are face to face with a group very similar to ours, but made up of total strangers. You each have spotted each other, and you're looking at each other for a clue. Is this a bad thing, or could this be a good thing? People are hard and few between. They're far and few. And now you've seen a group, and they've got old people and young people just like your group. They got the big burly brute, you got the big burly brute, so you're pretty evenly matched. And the thing that naturally seems to occur in the stories that I've heard, there's one of two things. Either there is an immediate clash, or somebody makes a move to get the hair out of their face, and then somebody on the other side moves hair to get out of their face. And some of the women reach down and pick up a baby on each side. And maybe the men smile at the other guy, and they are mimicking each other. They are mirroring the actions of the other guy. Whatever happened, the other side was going to mirror, because that's how we get to know each other. Are they like us, or are they others that we should be more wary of? We should pay closer attention to. When people were far and few between, you really had to take a moment upon meeting another group, because they could help you out. They could have that very thing you've been hunting for. They might know where the next water hole is. Or maybe you do. Or maybe they really like the looks of your family, and they'd make good slaves, and something bad could happen. By watching the other group, we get a clue. Are they like us? Or are they taking on a different stance, making us nervous? This is a situation that has gone on from then until this very day, this moment. Somewhere there are umpteen different people in just as many situations squaring off. There's a lot of squaring off lately. And it's happening because one side wants to bully the other side so that they can rule the other side. And then there's the other side who would choose to beckon the other side so that we could learn how to be stronger together. Two very opposite poles. Do you see how they have something in common? Can you see it, Steve?
They're watching each other. They're sizing each other up. Yeah.
So that each of them is really prepared to do whatever the other one does. Have a potluck, or, you're out of luck. Recently, there have been a couple of countries that invaded another country just because they figured they could take it over. And those wars just really wrecked some good people on both sides, I'm sure. Even as much as recently, this thing in the Middle East, where one political group attacked its neighboring country, but they didn't think about taking care of their neighbors, that that the people that they lived with. And now there's this big holy confusion because they didn't look at each other as people. They looked at each other to see if they could get something out of the other one. They didn't follow the golden rule. Voila. It's that darned golden rule. That thing is embedded in almost every culture, in every theology, religion, inclination, to do to others as you would have them do to you.
Hmm.
And if we screw it up, the only thing to do to respond to it is to say, "Oh, my bad." Because you would hope that the other guy would say that to you if it was their bad. To do to others as we'd have them do unto us is how we get along. And to get along is the entire reason for all of us different personalities to be living on this one clump of dirt. The secret of life is in learning how to get along. The others are representations of different facets of ourselves. To get along with others means that we can get along with ourselves. We don't have to have that inner war because I think I should have done that, or I bet they thought. We can enjoy our lives. We can enjoy the lives of our neighbors' children. We can laugh at their grumpy old men, just like they would laugh. We'd let them laugh at our grumpy old men and enjoy the looks of our children. People can get along, and together, whatever number has decided to get along, that group is stronger and more adept at steering the herd than the other people saying, "Let's divide and conquer." A gang of good is a good hand, and that can be drawn anytime. Even in the midst of conflict, there is always a group of people who really don't want to be doing that. They'd rather be home washing the cat than to pick up an arm and go against somebody else because some third person said to.
I'm not saying that's a good idea, but have you ever tried to wash your cat?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what made me think of it today, because that's like, what is the worst thing? Yeah, that'd be about it.
I'm going to digress for 5 seconds.
Do
If
it.
you have a cat, you ever try and clip their nails?
I once upon a time.
I found a hack online. You take a piece of tape, like lint roller tape, and you put it on their head for a moment, and it deflects their attention somehow, and you do their nails. That's a little tip from me. But
Oh,
I get the golden rule, and I think we need to always remember the golden rule.
it's simple. It goes and it stretches from every culture. It's even worked in countries where I do not know the language.
Hmm. We don't realize what it's like to be treated a certain way. That could come back to us. And I always say, just do the right thing. Unfortunately, it's subjective because some will say, well, that's the right thing for me. And maybe it is, but maybe it's not. What's the right thing for the greater good of all?
Would it be the right thing if they did that to your child? Would that rule be okay if it applied to the future of your grandchild? Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
But
Does
the
kind of
seven,
make you think. Makes you
yeah,
think.
there's the 7 generation rule. A lot of dear friends of mine follow, that we are responsible for the next 7 generations. Well, I'm sitting right dab in the middle right now, so you're probably pretty close, most of us, a lot of us are. From my great grandmother to my grandchild, I'm getting pretty right up in there in the middle of it. 7 generations, that's as far as it goes. It's just from one great to the other great. That's not very long. A lot of families know those people because they're in the pictures holding all the babies. 7 generations. If you did whatever you're going to do, would it work out well for your great grandchild? That's one way to gauge if it's the right thing to do. If it would hurt my family, it's probably not what I'd want to do. Well, not everybody thinks of humanity as their family like I do, but at
Hmm.
least we've got, some first cousins we like and some brothers or sisters we'd rather not, see go away. We look out for family, our little family group. A lot of people I have noticed are wanting to allow a person to run for president, even though that person has already disqualified himself. People who read the Constitution know that. It's in there. It's pretty plain. This man is not qualified. And he did it, not somebody else. But there's a group of people that want him to run for president anyway because, hey, let's just change the Constitution. Let's shift the bedrock out from underneath our feet. Do we want somebody to do that to us? Because if we move the bedrock, somebody else will move it on us. If we stand up for the union, then maybe somebody else will stand up for the union instead of the person.
Hmm.
We serve humanity well, and humanity tends to consider treating us well in return. First one to say it doesn't always happen. But practice makes perfect. Practice will get you, to the M line. This is important right now.
It
This
is.
is global. As I ask Spirit, what would I speak about today? What will we talk about? The golden rule kept popping up. So I looked it up and it's in every vocabulary, some form of it. Treat others in the way that you would, you'd want them to treat you. It is our choice. We can stop what we're doing. It's very difficult to stop a war once it's engaged in battle. That's a little tricky. So somewhere the influence that we are all the same children of the same planet. You don't have to like each other, but we're all connected. We all live on the same neighborhood. We can't blow the neighborhood up. It's only so big. Treat first yourself, first myself. Treat myself like I'd want other people to treat me. I'd want people to listen when I spoke. I would want people to smile when they saw me. And so I smile at myself. I would want somebody else to greet me instead of huff and ignore me. So I try not to ignore myself. I would hope that people who say they are connected to spirit really spend the time to be connected so that, like me, they can hear the wind howl, what the message is, what we need right now. We need to remedy a situation. We can create it, help create it. We do not have to let somebody else create it. Good is greater. So we do it for the greater good.
Well said before. I agree. And
Ta-da.
I don't know the full dynamics of what's going on the other side of the world. I
Me
mean,
neither.
I admit it.
Yeah,
Part
me
of me,
neither.
part of me just cannot even deal with it. I hate to say it, but I got enough going on. So I'm like, I just, it's such an atrocity.
It is.
However, what you just said, would it be okay if that happened to your kids, your grandkids? That was my eye
Mm.
opener right
Get
there.
real. Get real.
That's is that the skirmish and what's been going on for all these years? Is that good enough to think that that could be your kids? Because it could be in retaliation. And I'm going to share, and this is where I had to turn my head, like I can't even. There was a video in a social feed of them picking up a man, basically pieces, and rushing him to an ambulance amongst the chaos, the debris, everything. We've seen the image before. Included in this video was a young child, maybe he's 8, banging on the doors of the ambulance, crying, like so frustrated, like he doesn't know what to do because it probably was his father.
Might have been the only person who knew where it was at. We have to think of our children. We have to be patient, just like with our children. We cannot snap to and change the way we work any more than anyone else can. We must treat other people as we would want to be treated, not as a mercenary or a prisoner, but as a neighbor, someone who wants to grow a healthy community. We need a little bit of everything for a healthy community. That was the big deal of people coming over here and making a country in this already occupied continent, so that each of us can worship in a way that we find particularly wholesome for ourselves. Not that we can all be forced into being one kind. That's wrong. That's not American. We have to treat the other as if we are the other. Our child is the other. That sweet little boy that was just born, he's just learning to walk. He's the other. Would you do it to him? Slow down and consider before making great actions. I learned that you're not supposed to make big decisions when you're really freaking out and panicky. Because, like, for myself, when my children were growing up, that was rule number one in the house, was do not freak out the mother.
Hmm.
Because the mother would overreact every time. Didn't matter what it was. Peanut butter and mayonnaise, yeah, okay, overreact. To treat other people, how hard is that? To consider that the other person isn't an enemy. They just like coloring their hair that way.
And
Maybe
and that's not to minimize the
the greater changes.
what's going on. We're not saying picking sides. Well, it takes two
Pick
people
peace.
or countries or regions. I get it. I get it. But is this the answer? Is this, kid banging on an ambulance door because his dad's about to pass because he's in pieces? Is
Doesn't
that the
seem
answer?
right to me. Now, see, doing the right thing, that doesn't seem like the right thing.
It
You
doesn't
were asking,
really. I'm
how do you
sorry.
tell? That doesn't sound like the right thing. It's not what I would hope someone treated my grandson like if my son was in trouble and I was nowhere around. I mean, it gets really personal. Women, traditionally, we're not big on going and shooting up each other's sides until they deserve it. And then they're just their history. But to nurture the other side, maybe they'd like to learn how to make green beans the way you make them. Maybe they don't have to always make green beans the way they make them, or you know. Maybe it's okay if our children learn other languages. You know, the United States of America is one of the few countries this big that only speaks the one major language. Most other countries, even little ones, speak their own language, English of some sort, and probably a third language as well, just to get around.
Mm.
You
And
know, I would.
honestly, I regret not learning languages.
Mhm.
I really do. Then when I look back, why don't I take Spanish? I deal with it in work every day, and it would make life a lot easier, and I would connect better if I did. I didn't realize the benefits of doing that
Yeah.
in terms of communication. But that was a long time ago. I wish I saw that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's presented in schools, and sometimes a necessity. Because it is our second language here.
Yeah, Americans somehow have been taught an illusion that we are better than the others instead of a part of the others. The European Union kind of tries to reflect that they are a part of each other. They all got to get along and they all got to use the same money. Otherwise, they've all got to do it different.
Mm.
This is all one big country. That's a lot of square miles in the United States. And we all tend to, I mean, of all the people in our country, we've got like two brands in our government, the Republicans and the Democrats. Then there's the crazies, those independents. But instead of finding our samenesses, I mean, this whole country, we divide up between two brands because that's what we think we've got to work with. Good people there are more good people than people who want this or that kind of weird. Good people unite. Just be good people. Do unto others the way you'd have them do unto you. You would not want someone else telling you how to raise your child or which way your child needs to learn to praise God. I'd have a fit with that unless they included the way that I taught them or that they chose. I would not want someone else teaching my child how they should look at their own worth that's different than the way I would teach them. So we do unto others like we want them to do unto us. You say, look at that child over there. When I was a little girl, we lived in a little town in Kentucky that there was a lot of mulattoes left over from the Great War. And these beautiful little black children would have completely white splotches somewhere on their face or body. I thought they were beautiful. My parents didn't tell me anything different. They were just beautiful, other looking skin. Some people would push them away because they looked funky. Man.
Have you ever seen those videos, even pictures of the white boy and a black boy? They're like 8, 7, call it 7. And they meet on the playground and they're just having fun together. They don't even know the difference. You could even ask them. And they've done videos before. They don't see a difference.
Oh,
They
the funniest version of that was the two little boys that got their hair cut the same, so their teacher wouldn't be able to tell them apart. But one was of African descent, and the other one looked like some Danish Nordic person. But they had their hair cut the same. They were both about 6 or 7 years old. They were going to fool their teacher. I thought that was precious.
Mm.
Yep, they were the same. They were brothers.
How wonderful. God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We can fix this. There's a lot of problems and a lot of opportunities for us to go reflect what our neighbors are doing and throw mud back at them. Or we could still enjoy this idea that's as old as people.
The golden rule.
Yeah.
And based on what you just said, I don't know if you could see this, but I wanted to. It's exactly what we're talking about, and I shared it yesterday on my social media, and I'm going to try and hold it up here. And I know it's not clear, but
You'll have to
yeah,
tell me
yeah. So what it
because
is,
it
it's
can't possibly be what I look at it and see.
I'm not gonna do it justice. Yeah, and it's amazing how it's not picking up. Sometimes it does. Um, but there's a little boy, looks to be 3. Uh, he's missing his arm from basically the elbow down, and he's at a soccer game, and there's a female soccer player who is missing her arm in the same spot. And their expressions, dad is holding him up. Can't even see dad's face. You see the field in the background, the lights and everything, and you see her, and they're, kind of fist bumping, but they don't have fists together. And her face is just like, and he's lit up. And it's exactly what we're talking about. Exactly what we're talking
Yeah.
about. You
Yeah,
can
that's
just you feel the energy between the two of them, like he's found somebody and she has, and it's just their smiles say it all.
kindred spirits. We can all find a kindred spirit with other people somehow or another. We really can if we just take a moment and act rather than react and get on with things. Multitasking shortchanges us. One thing at a time.
Yeah. Just consider the golden rule. That's it. How
It
would you
is.
like it?
I have tried to figure out a better rule. As I was reading through things today, I read about a platinum rule. The platinum rule is to do unto others the way they would want you to do unto them. And I think that's starting to just get a little bit far out there.
Well, let's
circles back to the first one.
let's start where we are.
Really.
How do we
first?
We're out of time. What's your email address? How do we find you?
Go to the Goddess Janis, numeral 2, GODDESS number 2, at outlook.com. Find me on Facebook. Send me a message that way. Janis Reed, Goddess in Training. I'm in a place in America between mountaintops, so how you can connect with me is limited. I've tried to make up with that when we connect, we have a really good connection. If you're lost and you don't quite know how to do unto somebody the way you'd want them to do unto you that doesn't involve the police, maybe you should give me a call and I'll help you. I'll tell you a little story on how that possibility is a probability.
Fantastic. You know what? The golden rule rules. There it is. Don't forget it.
Rule. Yeah. Give me a big grill that says golden rule.
Not golden grill, golden rule.
Yeah.
Always great having you on.
Thanks for listening to me today. That was my boss kind of speaking up and saying, what's the biggest deal today? That was it. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it.
We'll talk next week, okay?
Sure. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down,
It's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.